morning. Welcome back. If you are joining us, this is Daybreak, and thank you for staying with us. We are focusing on the heavy rains and the flooding and the aftermath of the consequences it continues to bear on counties, including as listed by the agencies rolling out aid to the affected persons across the country. We are joined this morning from Wajir County by FCPA Ahmed Abdullahi, the Governor of Wajir County. Dr. Ahmed Idris is the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross, and Dr. Kalua Isaac Green is an environmentalist and a champion of ecopreneur. Governor, coming to you, and this largely applies to the meeting that the Council of Governors had months ago, and rolling out what you said was the needed 10 billion Kenya shillings or even more for the anticipated El Nino. The Met Department said in its correct prediction that that is going to be the situation. Then the head of state came out to say that, no, we aren't going to experience that. And then the Met Department last Friday came out to apologize. Did this mixed messaging in any way hamper your preparation for the El Nino as previously predicted by the Met Department?
Before I respond to that, I want to agree with everything said by Dr. Idris. I did not want to belabor the legacy issues, the question of the underdevelopment of northern Kenya, the lack of roads. As I've said, the only tarmac road there is, which is the road between Garissa and Modogashe, is on that's cut off now. But had we had proper international link roads, because our link to Ethiopia is now cut off and we have many settlements along that road, our link back to the rest of Kenya is cut off. We do not have a single dam worth 500 million shillings, let alone $1 billion shillings, in any of the counties in the northeast. I think these are legacy issues. We are on a single diesel-based generation for electricity. If we do not get diesel here in the next 2 weeks, then we will all be in darkness, even at the headquarters. So those are legacy issues, and I think the coping mechanism can be improved if there's more investment. Having said, I think what is important now is how do we respond to the current emergency. As to the mixed messaging, when we met with the Deputy President, and that was a planning meeting on how to prepare for coping with this, the counties came up with a budget of about 15 billion shillings, which is support that we're asking for from national government. Various national government agencies also came up with their own budgets. But there was a bit of political spinning that was done immediately after, thanks also to the media. There was a lot of talk of how agencies, governmental agencies and counties are planning to steal money, using El Nino as a pretext. We got, harshly worded letters from EACC. I think it wasn't really worth it. And then, of course, there was the Met Department misadvising the president, saying, no, it's not El Nino, it's just enhanced rains, we're all okay. And the president voicing that, and everyone, I think, slept on the job in a sense, and then we got caught up. Yes, the mixed messaging could well have affected our preparedness. I think we should still have prepared for the worst, but short of waiting for the rains to see what happens, the early warning system that we rely on is the meteorology, and when the meteorology gives mixed signs, and when the media hypes the same to say that, oh, the thieves are at it again, they want to steal money, yes, it could have scared away a lot of preparedness that we could have done.
Was it a question of, Excellency, the media hyping, or more or less a professional negligence on the part of the Met Department for holding on to a view than they after coming out to apologize? I mean, they were clear about it first, and then they come out to apologize. Was there a sense from your understanding and view, a sort of exogenous pressure from the other quarters of government to compel the Met Department to draw down on its earlier statement that there was going to be El Nino?
I don't want to get into the science of meteorology. Ayub, I'm a simple accountant. But I wouldn't really know what advised them to give the mixed signals. But I think once that happened, there was not only on the mainstream media but also on social media that it's not El Nino anymore, and I think a lot of that might well have affected the coordination, because even the coordination meetings that we were having with the DP then stopped until just the other one that you saw the other day.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Dr. I'm disappointed that you want to pick out, I'm sure, on generally the prediction given. And what's your reading of the on-off positions held by the Met Department as to whether this was El Nino or not? And then thereafter, the managing director coming out to say, to apologize to Kenyans. I mean, what's your reading of that? Did it hamper the preparedness level?
Before I comment on that, I think the people of northern Kenya deserve more. They deserve better. We are treating them badly, and I'm saying we because the government is us, is everyone. They deserve better. They are human beings. They need to be supported. Development should be well distributed. It should not be a situation that they don't have a single dam. It's ungodly. How much money does this country have? How much money has been budgeted in the water department? Infrastructure and all these things. It's painful to hear what the Honorable Abdullahi is saying, and therefore I think they deserve better, just like every Kenyan in every other place. The challenges, and this is part of the ownership, some of the issues that we are seeing, before I respond to your issue very quickly, is that we have not owned this. Do you know some of the wildfires that you see in forests going to 20,000 hectares, 10,000 hectares, happening multiple times in a year? Do you know that they have been set up by human beings? Because they don't understand. We have not made them to understand what they need and why it is important. We must fence off our forests. This is not anything to think about. Resources must be found, and we have enough locally. And I know how, and many people know how this can be found, because some of that water can be contained and be able to flow down in the best way possible, away from the calamity that we have. To your question, of course, the issue of communication needs to be dealt with, because you find that there is miscommunication from inside the Met Department. The deputy head is saying, it was actually in one of your news bulletin. Yeah. He says that no, it is not El Nino, it is enhanced rain. And then the boss is saying it is El Nino. I think that's a small thing internally that can be sorted within Met. But now going further, I have mentioned it earlier on in passing. Do you know Met does not have, first of all, they have the best equipment, I think, in Africa, and to some very good standard. Should that be enhanced? Yes, it must be enhanced, because there is what is called ground truthing, where you have various testing systems across the country in as close, because leaving this place where we are seated now, going to JKI, you will find like 3 or 4 multi-climates in that region. So imagine if Met has maybe only 4 or 5 going to Mombasa. No wonder the president will say that there is no El Nino, but there is also confusion. What is El Nino? Is it El Nino? Is it the rain, or is it the phenomenon, as it was corrected by the deputy president very wisely? We need to enhance funding to the Met Department. The forecasting systems that they have, they can be made better, and therefore we can be able to bring things in a better way, so that we can educate the people. We need to educate the people. You see, the fact that the president the other said that there is no El Nino, and people had just been moved out of a specific area, when he said that there is no El Nino, they came back and they have lost their property, and some of them lives. But does that mean that the president was wrong? it means that we need to do much more in enhancing the specific support to meteorological department, because the president could have been talking to a person from Machakos County, where there was no rain at all expected or even any signs of rain. Okay. And therefore he was right. But the entire system and connectivity needs to be enhanced. And then putting the money where our mouth is. We are missing in that. And we need to appreciate something is absolutely wrong. Okay. It is not with President Ruto, it is with us.
In terms of?
Not doing things the way we are supposed to be doing. And I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I was with a member of parliament. He told me, actually, I feel so bad. We slashed 200 million from the budget of meteorological department just the other day.
And did he specify the reasons as to why?
Because there was no sufficient funding. But where is the funding of meteorological supposed to come from? Is it not supposed to be distributed based on what we expect, the information that is going to improve on our farming, agriculture, the radio stations that they have? They are supposed to be funded so that they can be able to communicate. They have a radio station in every county. I don't know whether it still works. Where they need, maybe that 200 million would have been for something about radio station that needs to be improved. So it's not a blame game. We shouldn't blame each other in this way. Okay. We just need to do the right thing at the right time, having God in mind as our focus in what we must be able to.
Okay. Dr. Ahmed, coming to you, yesterday is on the brink of starvation. Kenyans are today internally displaced because of flooding, and we are talking about 10,230 households. That is about 61,380 people. And this clearly speaks to a stretch in your capacity as well, isn't it? I mean, how well are you going to reach out? Because it seems that the number keeps on growing and inundating even the capacities of the county administrations, as mentioned by Governor FCPA Ahmed Abdullahi.
Maybe just a comment on the movement between floods, drought, and the impact it has on the overall humanitarian architecture. So what we are witnessing, these variations, movement from one extreme emergency to another, is really the problem of the precipitation variability as a result of climate change. So we are likely to continue witnessing this. It's not going to be the end of it. I think we need to, therefore, as a country, prepare from a policy perspective and an institutional design perspective how to systematically be responding to that. What is sad is, as you've said, it is the same populations that were victims of the drought. In fact, as I said here on Sunday, the irony is that for many communities, the animals that survive the drought, they are losing them to the floods. And that's an unfortunate situation. So our architecture is one such that it is prepared for all the extreme weather events consistently and continuously. That is how we were designed by institution, and that's how we design our programming. And I'm really, really proud of the work of the staff and volunteers of the Kenya Red Cross who work consistently and continuously, responding from one emergency to another. So as we speak right now, we are stretched, and for sure we are stretched, but it is, we will, I think, stand up to the occasion and support to deliver aid and assistance to the affected population. The beauty of this response now, if we continue on this trajectory, is that we have a coordinated approach. And the coordinated approach means we can share responsibilities. I want to make one comment about the design, the constitutional design on disaster risk management and why it is that way. We have a principle of subsidiarity in which disaster risk management is a shared function between the county governments and the national government. Okay. What that means is that there is work that is supposed to be done by the county governments, and when they are not able to, when it exceeds their capacity, the national government responds. That design constitutionally needs to be unpacked, I think, from a preparedness perspective, so that we know what we expect from county governments. I think right now, as we speak, there is a gap on that question. So unpacking it is an important step. I know now we have a published disaster risk management bill. His Excellency the President, when he visited the Kenya Red Cross a few months ago, promised that he will take that as a priority, and now we have a published bill that is before Parliament. So we look forward to supporting it. And once that architecture is improved, once we have the institutional mechanism,
yes,
responding to these cycles will be much, much, much easier in terms of coordination. But that is it, yes, we're really stretched. It's a very difficult situation for us, but we will do our best.
Okay. Governor, coming to you, the question of security is what I want answers on. And here, initially, the insecurity during the drought period was because of the scarce resources and largely the community being pastoralists. Now you have displacement and people going to other geographical areas. Is this as well posing a security challenge in Wajir County that you heard?
Yes, during the drought, the security issues that we had were mostly, pastoral community related. We had cross-border clan conflicts between communities in Wajir and Isiolo, and at times even within county boundaries. And then immediately after, when we had the decent rains, before even this El Nino, there was a lot of Al-Shabaab activity and movements within the region. And that's explainable because the terror groups find it easier to move, and camouflage when it's all, wet and green, and when they have water on the go. Of course, now with settlements cut off, God forbid if anything happens, then it becomes that much more difficult to respond. The vagaries of the El Nino situation are not only affecting the general public, they also are affecting the various special forces groups within the county, because the places where they are also at times get cut off, and this is why we want to commend all the good work being done by KDF also in keeping the supplies of those groups going. So I think it's, as Dr. Ahmed said, it is a joint responsibility incumbent on all of us. And I honestly wish that at times probably as a national, as a government, especially at the national level, we should actually consider funding the Red Cross also as a country, because they complement whatever it is that the national government and the county governments are doing. And I think their mechanisms and their setup is very agile when it comes to responding. So they shouldn't only be depending on well-wishers and donor communities. If a quasi-government organization like the Red Cross, because they partner well with government, can do it better, we shouldn't really shy away from putting government money into their activities. So security, coming back to your question, can be a challenge, is a challenge, but we hope for the best. Yeah, and we're working very well with national government coordination units here, and also our security team, in spite of the situation we find ourselves in here.
Okay, and we'll talk about the health consequences, Governor, of the risk of waterborne diseases. But talk to me about when you have these engagements, especially as the leadership from the region here to specify Wajir, Garissa, Mandera, Isiolo, and Marsabit, and Tana River by extension. When you bring about the matter of dams that ought to be invested in to harvest this water for agriculture purposes, to boost the economic capacity of the counties that you do represent, what's normally the response from the national government, and clearly where the role falls on, because it's the responsibility of the central government to address that matter?
Ayub, our society here in this part of the country is very much at crossroads, literally, because of the changing demographics, because of the phenomenal growth in spatial development. As I said earlier, we have today as many as 700 settlements spread over roughly about 57,000 square kilometers in this county, and this is growing. So we are becoming, we are still nomadic in many ways. Our mainstay is still nomadism, but we're becoming also much more sedentary. And I think these changes are also affecting our coping mechanisms, because in the past there was better rangeland management. When the rains are a lot and when there is a lot of water flowing, people would easily move from lower grounds to higher grounds. When you become much more sedentary, that becomes a bit more difficult. Because of climate change issues also, we have done a lot of sensitization on dryland agriculture. So a lot of people also are attempting to do farming. It's not up to a large scale, but it's happening in many parts of the county. And then now this gets quite, washed off as a result of the surface runoff. So there's all these manner of things causing complication in the ability to cope literally. When it comes to the dams, the resource basket of counties and the developmental agencies that support us is not that huge to do mega projects. My entire development budget for a whole year is probably in the region of about 2 billion shillings, because more development also begets more recurrent expenditure. The more dispensaries you do, the more you have to keep those ones going. So a mega dam will cost a lot more than my entire development budget for a year, or Garissa's development budget for a year. So the ponds are there, the little earth dams are there. What we're asking for is mega dams. We need a lot more of the water budget nationally to come into this part of the country, because we have vast lands. We have large swathes of black cotton soil, which becomes pretty inaccessible when it rains. It could produce a lot of cereals for this country and deal with our food situation. So we need much bigger dams, and those are the ones that we want national government to do. And I know there are plans. For instance, in Wajir now, there has been the Butte large-scale dam, which has been on the cards for many years now, and I know national government is keen to progress it. So we need a lot more investments in larger dams. I believe opening up this part of the country for more large-scale agriculture will make us all better off as a country, and deal with the issue of food prices and reduce the importation of foodstuffs into this country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Coming to you, I'll come to you, Dr. Kalua. In 2021, we met in Makueni County, which hosted the annual devolution conference, and clearly the talk about the investment needed at the county level of climate action awareness was the theme. We had seen the Danish embassy and other supporters of Kenya's climate cause also meeting at the time. I mean, talk to me then about since then. I mean, it's now 2 years almost, whether there has been sufficient multi-level climate action at the national and at the county level, and on whether this is sufficiently being followed to the latter.
Thank you. Good memory. I remember that conference very well. It's the only conference that I have been called to give my professional advice and experience. And I was very happy to participate. And it was very focused. And I like the Council of Governors and their focus. Do you know the Council of Governors? You were there. You could see. They are so focused. They have a very professional team that backs them. And out of the various sessions on waste management, call it water harvesting, everything, there came 21 or 22 points that were delivered as the resolutions of the conference. And I remember the last one was added the last day, which was about involving youth in matters of development and sustainable development. The question needs to be, one, what are the county governments doing in their small way? I'm glad that the governor is saying what they are doing, and it may not be sufficient. We need to remove corruption at the county level, because it messes us up a big time. These other issues of what has been done or not done, what are they doing in terms of management of all this? But again, a report needs to be made to Kenyans. 21 items were dealt with. It's not just a conference discussion. It needs to be, what are the actions that every individual is supposed to do? Which county is doing best in terms of those 20-some points that were raised in that conference? Where are we? Where do we want to go? What is deterring issues that are keeping us away from this, so that we can all go together? The issue we are lacking in Kenya, I will say it umpteenth times, we are not pulling together. I think Kenyans have been hurt so many times, and it is historical. So much so that they suspect anything that is being done. You say something, people calculate hapo ni wizi inaendelea, because they have gone through it so many times. It is so painful. And that can only be sorted by moving with everyone. Every county governor standing and saying that, yes, the solution to some of the issues and deaths that we are having is bridge. Can we put bridges that are good enough for this? Because people will have to go where they have to go to get food for their children. We need more bridges, and I have done so many bridges that are sustainable, not just funny-looking structures. If you better do a few that are right, so that the investment is best for that specific place. So to answer your question, the 20-some issues that were raised, where are we? There was actionable areas, and I believe Council of Governors has got everything that is needed, but that it needs now to be cascaded, so that it gets now to the corporates, it gets to the institutions, it gets to the individual homes, it gets to the households, so that everyone knows what action. That moving together, that understanding, the why we are doing things is what is lacking, and we need to bring people together.
Okay. Dr. Ahmed, I mean, the governor talked about investments also needed in the agriculture sector, saying that there is sufficient land to provide food even for the country, talking about the example of the black cotton soil to support farming. Is this an area that you're also intending to work with the county administrations going forward? Because it seems that there is the availability of land, labor, the provision which is equally present. But what extra factor do you think should be considered rather to upscale the economic capacities of these counties to forestall such disaster in terms of even making the country at large food secure?
First, our main focus is disaster risk management. We are not an economic institution, but I'll tell you, a number of years ago, we shifted our focus from response-oriented, projects to resilience-building projects. And what that means is that whereas before we used to work downstream, respond to emergencies, the impact of emergencies, including the humanitarian situation that results, since then we've been investing a lot around building resilience and preventing the emergencies, the humanitarian situations from resulting to start with. And one of the areas we've been responding to around food security is actually food production. So we've supported communities that are in drought-prone areas to develop practices around climate-smart agriculture, targeting irrigation, use of better varieties of seeds that are drought-tolerant, expanding or diversifying the species of animals to have more drought resilient animals. So there's a range of focus now on resilience building. That means supporting the production capacity of the country. Do we intend to do more? Yes. In fact, now our budget, I think at about 70% focuses on resilience building. So we're making more development-oriented infrastructure. We've put up water projects in different parts that target as large as 120,000 households. So really we've moved from the era of just being seen responding to emergencies as we are known for, to more development-oriented. What do we need to move from that? Yeah. Our experience, I think a combination of factors. One is public education. You're talking about moving communities that have known a specific source of livelihood, and you're trying to introduce diversified livelihood. So greater investment in education, public awareness, knowledge creation, proof of concept projects so that people can see this actually works. So that's the first one. The second one is a coordinated approach, I think, and I really emphasize this. Our work across the spaces, those of us who work in civil society, those who work in government, we have to have a coordinated approach. Otherwise, what we will be doing is planning on one end and implementation on multiple ends that are not speaking on the same, are not reading from the same script. So the second one is that focus of coordination and better conversations between agencies and the government. But the final one is just what Governor, I think, Ahmed has emphasized, what I've emphasized before. There has to be better funding for development work and development projects. I'll give you an example, Ayub. As a country, we always talk about Netherlands, how good Netherlands is in terms of flood mitigation and flood management. One of the major projects in Netherlands, the Delta Works, that responded to the 1953 floods, took, it was a construction project from 1954 to 1997, costing in excess of $5 billion. They put 10,000 dikes, 13 dams, 300 structures to support that. $5 billion is not small money. That means we have to, as a country, purposely be part of that journey to free up more money for development work. And as long as we can't achieve that, everything else that we are talking about will just be a miracle.
Yeah, so substantial investment, to what you say is forestall such circumstances. Development is expensive, but it's worth it, as you have said. Yes, Doctor, before we go to the Governor.
Yes, I think you are spot on. And I must thank the Red Cross. Even with all what we are saying, Red Cross is doing a good job. The thing is, how much is $5 billion? It's nothing. It's very little money for people who understand why we have to do it. Kenyans raised money, Kenyans for Kenya. How much was that within a week, within a month?
Millions.
It means we can be able to do these things. We only need to help Kenyans to understand why we have to do that. The efforts that you're doing and is continuing to do are very important to keep people aware, and it must be supported, and every effort of that nature must be supported. So keep up the good work. I wanted to congratulate him and say that $5 billion is nothing. It's very little money to save people and develop a nation towards the direction that we need to do. We only need to understand that because dikes and Netherlands, how expensive is it to get the top expert from Netherlands to come and help Kenya and Africa? We can pay, we can afford, so that every little step is made in the right direction. You said it's from 1950s to 1990. So be it. We can be able to move in the right direction. But right now, we are doing little things that are uncoordinated. Ministries are doing that. And then tomorrow you find a road where trees were planted. You have to uproot because there was a road that we look like we didn't know. All these things. That is what we need to sort out as a nation. Okay. And I believe it's going to.
Governor, coming to you, then to the question of the economic activity of the people largely across the northern frontier districts, which is pastoralism. Do you embark on an action to create awareness amongst them on the commercial element of their livestock to reduce overgrazing? Because that has been a concern, especially in one space or given space where the density, is affected otherwise. And for them to understand the commercial question of the livestock to earn money so that they can also offset their other activities before, again, we complain about the drought situation in the aftermath of the flooding and the rains ongoing at the moment?
Ayub, livestock farming for us here has been largely an extractive industry in a sense, because other than moving around with our livestock, there hasn't been a lot of commercialization or investment. Actually, it's much easier to do, really, when you look at it on the face of it, than all the hard work that goes into crop farming. When you have rains or predictable seasons, as we've had in the past, it hasn't been that difficult to just graze around with your livestock. Of course, what's making it much more difficult now is the vagaries of the climate change adverse effects now, the frequency of drought, and then it gets pretty desperate. So, and this is why now I'm saying we're at crossroads in a sense, because it's getting to a mix in some ways to between the sedentary lifestyle, where people are trying out farming, and also the nomadism. And whether we're doing enough in terms of awareness and public knowledge, it's debatable. There are things we have been trying, for instance, increasing the uptake of index-based livestock insurance, for instance, asking people to insure their livestock in good times so that they get paid when drought bites. But that itself has its challenges, because uptake of insurance in this country, all manner of insurance, is at less than 3% really. So when you're now trying to convince nomads to insure their livestock, it comes with its own challenges. There are abattoirs being done in many parts of the northern counties. Most of them are halfway done. There's a resource issue also of completing them and equipping them. We're trying to see if we can partner with the private sector to actually give this up to them to commercialize. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot of talk about it, but the actual, commercialization, whether it's meat processing or leather, is still to be actualized. But I believe going forward, some of these things will really materialize. But now coming back to the question of resources and the debate of subsidiarity principle also, there's a need to devolve more resources to the counties to be able to also deal with some of these things and cope better. Currently there's a live debate on the issue of RMLF, the Road Maintenance Levy Fund, where counties have not been allocated a shilling for road maintenance from the RMLF. A lot of the roads that you see cut off are county roads. We have no money really in our budget to try and fix that. Usually, especially at the national political architecture, there's a lot of inertia when it comes to allocating more resources to counties. And of course, Big Brother always wins because they're able to force resource decisions down our throat. So I think we should be able to look at counties, because we are here, and Dr. Ahmed will tell you, we partner with him at the grassroots to try and cope with all these things, be they health issues, be they road issues, be they disaster risk management issues. So there should be more resources allocated to the counties to also increase their ability to cope.
All right, Governor. Then before we sample the feedback of the viewers, mentioning the question about leather, I mean, how key is the ongoing national government initiative in collaboration with the counties, though Wajir isn't yet the established part here in this case of the county aggregation centers, is this a way out for the creation of more wealth for the people at the grassroots level, where leather industries can be set up in the northern part of the country because of the availability of skill, and thereafter impact the lives of people and the livelihoods positively so in the creation of more money and having more money in their pocket?
I think if well implemented, the county aggregation and industrial park is a good idea. It's an idea that we had at the time of independence, which wasn't well implemented, or was probably implemented but lost over time. If you look at, for instance, Kenya Industrial Estates, which the founders of this nation thought of, it was a very noble idea. It was an idea of setting up cottage industries across countries. It was an idea of incubating businesses at the grassroots, having common user facilities. And I think the aggregation parks are in a way similar to that. And I think it was courageous to have them implemented across all counties, while even knowing that counties are at different stages and at different levels of industrialization. We have started our county industrial park, the construction of it. We have tendered and it's ongoing now. The construction is ongoing. Of course, we get told that it's going to be a white elephant project, but what I usually tell my people is it's better off to construct it today than 10 years from now. And we will try and see to it that once it's up and running, there is activity. And part of those activities should be industries around leather. It should also be industries around basic value addition to food, basically generally food processing. As I said, we're at crossroads. There's a lot of small-scale agricultural activity, which we hope will grow. And hopefully by the time the parks are complete, there should be enough to do in all of them across the entire country.
Thank you. Let's now, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Kalua, take a look at some of the feedback our viewers have sent in on the hashtag Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya, on X at Ayub Abdikadir. Here is what you are saying. The first one here coming from, this is Talai Kilel. He says Kenya Red Cross has always been at the forefront in the provision of humanitarian aid to people affected by the floods. Both national and county governments should work together to fund such institutions in order to achieve more. Babu Michelle K says the national government and the county governments in the northeastern region should continuously collaborate and set aside funds every financial year for this crisis after crisis situation. The floods there should indeed be a blessing, not a problem. Brian Chemwa says the government could have utilized funds to build and maintain robust infrastructure such as dams, levees and stormwater drainage systems. The rampant corruption is costing Kenyans. Kibet_Clean says the governor should not be talking about some one-tarmac road. They are getting allocation each financial year, and devolution was meant to address these development gaps. The issues with flooding, it should be linked to the lack of roads. That was development point by the Secretary General. Again, Talai Kilel says, thumbs up to the Kenya Red Cross for its unwavering support to the counties affected by floods. It clearly shows how always ready and organized they are in executing its mandate. The last one here from Engineer Lazaro says, abnormal rains didn't come as a surprise. We were warned earlier by the Meteorological Department. Kenya should stop being reactionary body. We are sick and tired of endless blame games. Hata kama ni kuopen mistakes from the top. Yes, Dr. Kalua Green, coming to you. It ought to be a blessing, not a disaster, is it?
The only way it can be a blessing and not disaster is by educating Kenyans on what to do. Tell an African person, and a Kenyan for that matter, to conserve the environment. You'll be left alone, but show them how to make money. They will all go in that direction. We simply need to understand that there are opportunities, that in every crisis there lies an opportunity. The secret lies in identifying that opportunity. The youth of this nation know, and they have some piece of land somewhere that can be used to grow vegetables, to do the leather works that you are talking about, to do activities of tree growing where nurseries, tree nurseries are produced and the youth are getting the money directly so that the funds are devolved to that point of view, or Kenyans are also buying the seedlings to improve the livelihoods of our people. I foresee the future of this country working together with these aggregation centers at every county, that the Green Africa Villages, which I have envisioned and was launched by the former president Mwai Kibaki, is a big solution where everything is an enterprise, an eco-enterprise, that everyone understands why they must make money, how they can make money, where and when, so that it is a linked market where people can be able to get to the market with the cooperatives. The power that lies with our cooperatives in sharing this information and changing livelihoods is such a great thing. And therefore, we need to keep going. We need to put every effort in everyone who has got that opportunity, be it the Red Cross, which I'm part of, by the way, and many other institutions that we are working with. We need to focus for the good of this.
And Dr. Ahmed, what's the risk of the road cutoff? Because many drivers, we understand from the reports we are getting, apparently disposing of the food that they were ferrying to these counties, Wajir and Mandera, that is because of the impassable road situation. And clearly, can this have an impact on the general population in these counties? Yeah,
so there's right now we're already registering scarcity in access to food in the northern part. So the prices are increasing. There are actually towns where one of the reasons why we have to do this food drop-off is exactly that, because literally sooner than later they will run out of food. These are small towns. They rely on a very poor network of roads for their supply chain to the stores, the private businesses. So it's largely affected. It's an area of great concern for us.
Governor, your final comments here on the broadcast and generally you quantifying for us during the start of this broadcast, how dire is this going to be now that the supply route is severely affected and the infrastructure damaged? We understand that drivers are disposing of the food stuff that they have packed from Nairobi, and generally what impact can this have on the people of Wajir County?
I think if there is something that urgently needs to be done more than anything else really is to fix the major link road. And I have had a conversation with the Minister for Roads and given my two-word sense of advice on having framework contractors activated on the Kenha roads and the Kera roads, because they're largely Kenha roads and Kera roads, to try and do spot fixing to keep the transport system going. Because that's where the challenge is. Unless we can actually get the food supplies and medical supplies even to our county headquarters, the question of then even lifting to the maroon people or getting to the places that are accessible doesn't really arise. It's the biggest challenge we have, keeping the Nairobi, Garissa, Nairobi, Isiolo, Wajir, Mandera Road, and then Wajir Moyale Road active and open is the biggest. And we're asking everybody who has the wherewithal to do this, including our military, because the military can actually set up temporary bridges, to keep the road moving. I think that's the biggest thing we need to do. Just to put it into context, we have 147 metric tons of medical supplies that we have purchased from KEMSA, which we're trying to get here. Trying to airlift that will be too costly. So airlifting food supplies to keep the general economy flowing is virtually impossible. So keeping the roads active is definitely a key thing. Our other fear also is the more the black cotton soil belt gets wetter, we might actually get to a situation where livestock, especially the camel, gets stuck in the mud, and then we have all manner of challenges. So we're trying to tell people to get off the black cotton soil area with their camels especially. So this could actually get worse depending on also how it rains. If it's intermittent and it leaves a few days of drying here and there, we might cope better. So let's all pull together, but keeping the supply chain going by fixing the parts of the road that are cut off is the best we can do. And for the viewers that are commenting about the counties, I can tell you, Ayub, for free, that our coping mechanism today is much better as a result of having county governments on the ground.
Thank you. Your time is all appreciated. FCPA Ahmed Abdullahi, Governor, Wajir County, for your time. And he joined us live from Wajir County for this broadcast focusing on the crisis in the aftermath of the floods and the destruction, the humanitarian scale that is rolled out by agencies, among others, the Kenya Red Cross. And its Secretary General, Dr. Ahmed Idris, was with us in studio. Your time is all appreciated. Many thanks for gracing us, and to Dr. Kalua Isaac Green, ecopreneur and environmentalist, who also gave us his account of what's happening in the country.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to you too for working up with us here on the broadcast. The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We'll see you on Friday at the same time here on the broadcast. Till then, good morning.